we ready? All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here this morning. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is 10:01 a.m. on the 11th of October. We do have a couple board members that are not here, but we do have a quorum, so we will go ahead and get started since we do have 5 hearings today. So please bear with us. Thank you, everybody in the audience, for being here. Do we have a motion to accept the staff report into the record?
I'll make a motion. We accept staff report into the record.
Thank you. We have a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And then do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the September 13th meeting? Was there any corrections?
No corrections. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the September 13th, 2023 meeting.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Perfect. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. All right, review of the last application heard from the county commissioner meeting on September 21st. Megan, how did that go?
Good. All 5. Yep, still pulling up.
No worries.
Sorry about that. Okay. We had all 4, public hearings were approved. Both of the Gerald Dunnigan, the variance, and the zone map amendment were approved. And then the variance for Chenoweth subdivision for the road and being able to connect to well and septic, or being able to use well and septic instead of connecting to water and sewer district out there was approved, as well as the zone map amendment going to just the R2SF with lot size of 4 was approved. So everything went smooth sailing there.
Perfect. All right. Well, we will jump right into public hearing number 1, Cale Jasperson. It's a zoning map amendment from CRS to R2. And I'll turn it over to you, Megan, whenever you're ready.
All right. Thanks for bearing with me, guys. It's been a little bit of a crazy morning. Had a couple last minute changes. So, okay. The first public hearing we have today is a zone map amendment for land that is owned by Cale and Yvonne Jasperson within their trust. There's a 3.5 acre parcel that they currently live on. And then there are lots 8 through 16 just west of them on the other side of Washington Street that are, these 2 properties are being proposed to be rezoned from CRS, which they are currently, to R2, which is mixed residential. All the properties are still located within the growth management area. Infrastructure that is currently there. Of course, Green River Fire District is the responding agency. County Road Washington Street is the road both of these properties access off of. The properties also reside within the Jamestown Rio Vista Water and Sewer District, and Rocky Mountain Power and Dominion Energy also have utilities within this area. Mr. Jasperson is requesting to go from commercial and recreational services to mixed residential. This zone map amendment is approximately for 5.06 acres. And going through this zone change, it would be actually going to a more restrictive zone district because it will be residential. If you looked through our use chart within commercial and recreational services, the list is rather long compared to what you're allowed to have within a residential zone district. As you can see, most of the property just in the Jamestown area is currently zoned R2, so it would match with zoning there, and where basically the Green River RV park is located is the rest of the CRS zoned land that would be there if this were to change today. A little bit more zoomed in picture of the aerial. Mr. Cale's Jasperson's property is on the right-hand side of this picture, and then the more vacant property that hasn't quite been developed is on the left-hand side of the screen. Mr. Jim Zimmerman properly posted public notice, as you can see by the pictures, and we'll jump straight into the review criteria. As always, the comprehensive plan encourages growth and development to continue in an orderly manner to help contribute to the economic and social well-being of county residents. Always making room for more residential property is not a bad thing, especially when property hasn't been developed and has nearby utilities within the area. Criteria number 2, the proposed zoning is suitable for the existing topography and creates buildable lots. The existing topography is relatively flat, which is good. Plus, changing the zoning will also help to blend in future development within an already predominantly residential development area in general. Criteria number 3 is the proposed zoning compatible with existing and allowable uses with other adjacent properties. As we kind of went over in the zone map amendment, most of the properties within the area are currently zoned mixed residential. The Green River RV Park exception to this. Jamestown has always been a pretty unique area just within the county, but staff does find that it would be compatible with existing uses within the area. And criteria number 4, can the proposed zoning demonstrate adequate facilities, including roads, drainage, potable water, sanitary sewer, police and fire protection exist or will serve to exist at the request such time facilities are needed. The area is already pretty well developed and has access to nearby utilities. As everybody knows, the exception to that is, of course, sewer. All of the properties within Jamestown currently operate on a septic system, with the hope of that changing hopefully in the future. Criteria number 5, well, this amendment shall not adversely affect adjacent properties, communities, or health and safety and welfare of residents within Sweetwater County. Staff does not believe that this would negatively affect adjacent properties, and we have not received any negative complaints on this zone map amendment request either. And criteria number 6, this request conforms with all applicable provisions of this resolution, and staff does find that it would conform with our zoning resolution. When this was put out for public and agency comment, we received a lot of no comment. All West, Lumen, Phillips 66 and City of Rock Springs all really didn't have any comments on it. And as such, the land use staff does recommend approval of this zone map amendment as requested by Mr. Jasperson. And Mr. Jasperson is in attendance today if the board does have any questions for him as well.
Hale, would you like to come up and add anything to Megan's presentation this morning?
Oh, thank you, Madam Chairman. Really, the only purpose for rezoning this is this property has not been used in its capacity under a CRS zone for probably excess of 25 years. It was part of the original Texas travel camp. And so any improvements in that area, you noticed a couple of structures, those were structures used during that time frame. Laundromat, shower house, that's what those structures were. It's no longer being used that way. And I think that an R2 zone would be much more compatible and lend to the appropriate development of that area. And hopefully expand the, desirable housing that we all would like to see, I think. As far as the 3.5 acres, that also was being used as an accessory to the original travel camp and has not been used that way for a considerable amount of time. So I think this is a move going forward. In my mind, it lends to the development of that area, hopefully in a positive direction, a little more consistency. And that's the real purpose for doing this.
Which was, I guess, my question is like, why now?
Yeah.
It's been like this. It's been zoned for a really long time. CRS, I'm like, why now are we changing it? But okay, thank you. That answered.
Yeah, well, one of the reasons is my son wants to build a home on one of the couple of the lots close to the river on the west side of Washington Street. And of course, we want to protect the value of that investment and make it a little bit more compatible as far as an R2 zone would do that. And it would also, in my mind at least, prevent any future commercial development in that area and reserve it for residential.
That was the question I had for you. Does anybody else on the board have any questions? Rob? No? That answered it. All right, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll go ahead and open it up for public comment. If there's anybody in the audience that would like to speak in favor of the zone map amendment. We have lots in the audience today. It's so exciting. It's awesome. If there's anybody in the audience against, or anybody that would like to say anything in general. No, okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public comment portion. We'll open it back up to the board for any further questions, either for Megan or Mr. Jasperson. All right, hearing none, would anybody like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the zoning map amendment from CRS, Commercial and Recreational Services, to R2 Mixed Residential.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any last final further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Perfect, thank you. We'll move right into public hearing number 2. Amanda Camphouse Allred, zoning map amendment also from single family residential to a lot size overlay to RR.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Property for this zone map amendment is owned by Amanda D. Camphouse and Nathan K. Allred. Mandy Camphouse is the applicant on this zone map amendment today. The property that we are talking about changing the zoning on is approximately 46.6 acres located at the very end of Haskell Road, excuse me. The address is 38 Haskell Road. The current zoning of the property is single family residential with a lot size overlay of 35 acres and is also located within the growth management area. Existing infrastructure that is there. Of course, Fire District number 1 is the responding agency. Haskell Road is a county road that the property is accessed off of. It is also within the 10-mile water and sewer district, and Rocky Mountain Power also has electrical services within the area, and the property does have septic on site as well. When Mandy came in and was asking a couple questions even a few months back before actually turning in her request for this. She was kind of just doing her homework and trying to figure out and understand the difference in what all 5 of our residential zone districts kind of provide. The biggest reason for her change is she's wanting to have accessory buildings that are larger than her home, and the only residential district that can be done in is rural residential. Those are typically reserved for larger properties and properties that just are a little further out. Most of Stashnos Ranch, which is directly north of kind of this area, that land is all zoned rural residential, so minimum district size will not be a problem. She actually meets the minimum district size well over that, since it's only 5 acres. Something else she's hopefully planning on doing in the future is a family exemption, basically spinning off land to give to her kids in the future. Because this is a subdivision exemption per Wyoming state statute, zoning can't actually regulate this. So that's something I do just want everybody to kind of be aware of. Since we were going through the zone map amendment, we also found it kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone and take off that 35-acre lot size overlay. She would be able to subdivide the land without it because it's a family exemption, what she's looking at going at, but might as well clean it up so it's not contradictory on the map when that happens in the future. And with the property being proposed to go to rural residential, the accessory buildings that could be built could go upwards of up to 200% of her existing primary structure. As you can see, most of the property within the area East and south of it is zoned single family residential, and they've got varying lot sizes on it. And again, all the property zoned to the north of it is rural residential with ag land, basically where White Mountain is located to the west of this subject property. Little bit clear view of the aerial and what's already located out on the property. And Mr. Zimmerman did properly post public notice. We'll jump right back into review criteria. And I'm kind of just gonna hit the high points on this, since most of them kind of are the same. Staff does find that existing topography allows for creating buildable parcels, and it already has large amounts of land, which kind of go hand in hand with wanting to build larger structures. So staff does not find that to be a problem. Proposed zoning is compatible with existing allowable uses that are already within the area. And staff also finds that there's adequate public facilities located on the parcel already. As far as the amendments not adversely affecting any adjacent properties, staff also does not find that would happen. And when put out for public and agency comment, we did not have any negative comments as well. And last but not least, staff does find that this request for zone map amendment does conform with all applicable provisions of the Sweetwater County zoning resolution. We did receive agency comment back. Again, all of them were no comment, which we do appreciate people actually reviewing these and letting us know that they're doing so. So thank you for that. And staff does recommend approval of this zone map amendment from single family residential with a lot size overlay of 35 acres to rural residential as requested by Amanda Camphouse Allred, and Mandy is actually in the audience as well if you do have questions for her.
I just have a quick question. When they did all, not necessarily just all of this out here, was it originally RR and then changed to R2SF? Do we know? And we're changing it back, or just when everything was originally done, it was R2SF? Do we?
Most of what I found in looking back, it was R2SF. The previous planning director was a huge fan of lot size overlays in anything that was any large lot sizes. I feel like we've had quite a few of these, just even on.
Well, I know, I guess that was my question. I was like, was this originally, or are we changing it back to what it originally was? And I just wasn't sure.
No, I've not found anything that we're changing it back to what it originally was.
Okay.
It's most of north of Rock Springs honestly has been the R2SF with little spots here and there kind of for the R2 that is our kind of catch-all residential district. But no, I don't see that we're going backwards with this.
Now, I got a question. On the rural residential, is there a minimum lot size under the rural residential? It wasn't it. We dealt with that a while back.
There is a minimum lot size. I'll be completely honest, I don't have my regulations in front of me. I want to say
thought it
it's
was
an acre.
And no, well, the rural residential. 'cause
Acre or
when we
two.
Went through that last time. I mean, we were dealing with some 40-acre lots.
Yeah.
And that was one of the questions, because I looked just for tax purposes. I was looking at my lot didn't qualify back then. So I think there's an acre size on rural residential. We might want to do a quick look and see what that is.
I'll pull up the regulations
yeah.
here real quick, but I believe
Sure,
it's
yeah,
2
this-
acres.
Yeah.
Plus, and it was,
It's 2 acres because you would, in most rural residential zone property, you're gonna have well and septic, so you're gonna need
Right.
your minimum 2 acres, especially within the growth
yeah,
management
'cause
area.
it was. I'm gonna go back to about 4 years ago, we were dealing with this, and when I looked into it, my 2+ acre lots did not qualify.
It might be.
And
think,
I-
two.
Bet the reason for that was because you need the minimum district size. And your property loan, I would imagine, doesn't meet that 5 acres.
'Cause I had the 40 acres stuck in my head, or 35 acres, and I was thinking that was a long, unless it's something we changed since then, because I mean, we have changed some things since then.
For sure. Mandy, is there anything you would like to add to Megan's presentation? You don't have to, but you're more than welcome to come up and say something if you'd like. It's completely up to you.
Opportunity. Yeah, cleaning it up, I thought was going to be really important, even though we didn't need to do that. I didn't want any confusion or any kind of issues when it came before the board when I do subdivide for the children.
Perfect. No, we appreciate that too.
And it's hard to loan on anything over 40 acres, so
Yeah, it is.
it's kind of important to get it down to where it'll be, standard Fannie Mae.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, we will go ahead, or did you find what you were looking?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Richards, I did find what I was looking for. The minimum lot size for a rural residential is 1 acre, whereas the minimum district size for rural residential is 5.
Okay.
So when you've got, let's say, Mr. Richards, I'm not sure how big your property is, but I would imagine that on its own does not qualify for the minimum district size. So there's kind of the
Got
difference
two
there.
of your neighbors together and.
Yep. Not very many people are like Mandy to where they've got,
And I'd look
over 40
into
acres
the
themselves.
lot size, to build a bigger, but you can variance that too, so.
that is correct.
Thank you, Megan, for looking that up for us. All right, we'll go ahead and open it up to public comment. If there's anybody in the audience in favor of the zone map amendment, if you'd like to come up. If there's anybody against, or would just like to say something in general. Yes, please come up, and if you'll state your name for the record and.
I'm Jeff Fritz. I have double J Road right across the street from Hassel Road that goes to their property. I put in double J subdivision down there
Okay.
and went by the growth management plan, but my concern is going to rural residential has to be in an unincorporated area to go to rural residential. And being in the growth management plan area, it's a incorporated area. And then also, I've been over backwards putting that subdivision in, and doing everything to all the rules and building restrictions and road requirements and put a lot into it. And I don't want to see if this would open up a precedent for rural residential for the land just east of Mandy's is it's not developed, but if that would be a precedent for them to do the same thing, we're gonna end up with a Stasnos looking place out there with any kind of building going on at all. And I wouldn't want to see that because we went so far with the growth management plan to have quality growth. And I don't think that would be for the quality that the growth management plan had put in for. So most everybody out there complies with the growth management plan, but this would open it up where they wouldn't have to. They could put any kind of building they wanted in there, being rural residential, and I don't think it's able to be done anyways, being incorporated into the growth management area. But I still like to see people do what they want to with their land,
It is a hard thing, huh? Yes.
but I don't want to see it go backwards 30 years in time. After everything we went through with the growth management plan, I've been in it from the start and it wasn't nice, but
Understood.
I say you're gonna open up a precedent if you do it for all the undeveloped land out there to go rural residential and not have any kind of restrictions on building. And that's my concern.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate your input. Thank you. Which I mean, oh, yep. Come on, back up.
Hi, so the subdivision that I plan to put in will be for my children. It will not be for profit like Mr. Fritz's property. It'll be just for my 3 children. And they choose to build, my daughter will have an indoor riding arena. And if they choose to build a barnuminium, like what's going on in his Doubleday subdivision, that will actually meet the county specifications. So it's not a profit subdivision. It's just for family legacy. Is because as you and I both know, in 10 years, can our children afford to live in Sweetwater County? So this is helping my children out because I've been blessed to have this property. I want to bless my children. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any further public comment? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public comment portion and open it back up for the board for any questions, comments for applicants. Megan? I mean, I understand what you are saying too. Part of the beauty of having county property is, you know, if you can build a shop and, you know, do a couple different things, but I mean, everybody would have to apply. And it would have to be, you know, something that's looked at, and that staff does review. So we do always appreciate that because they do look at those things closely, make sure we're not going backwards, because we definitely don't want to go backwards, ever. We've definitely tried to clean up some of these areas that we've had, so. I will leave it up to you two.
Another question for Megan. Just a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago, when we changed some stuff, we still put lot size limits on those ones out behind Reliance. Didn't we?
Mhm.
You know, we removed the bigger thing and went to a smaller one. Are we looking at just completely eliminating lot size overlay totally off of this, or had you come up with something more in line with the plan of what the future is, or?
That's a good question, Commissioner Richards. When I talked this over with Eric, just to make sure I was interpreting state statute correctly, because of what she's planning on doing is a family exemption,
Mhm.
we cannot use zoning to curb how that property's split. The family exemption itself is an exemption.
Is the one that we
So
had to
we're not-
adopt
We're not
from
dealing
the
with
state.
family exemption yet.
Not
We
yet.
don't have that. That doesn't exist. We're anticipating the future. I mean, does she could change her mind next week and that's gone and changes everything. So even if we have a lot size in there, the family exemption would override the lot size anyway. So, I mean, it's just I'm trying to be equal with what we've done. Cause I want her to give it to her kids, do whatever she wants with it, but we can't. My opinion, we can't let it be a free for all afterwards either. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I'd recommend something in there. So it's consistent with what we've been doing.
I don't disagree with you with that. If you guys want to, I mean, this is a recommendation
Feel
board
how you want
to the
make
Board
the
of County
motion.
Commissioners. You can make a motion, and if you want to, just state whether you want to keep it 35 acres or put some other acreage size on that lot size overlay and have it read like that as a recommendation. That's something that can happen.
Restrictions were my concern about it on what's required, what kind of home you can put in on it. And right now it's a modular, it's gotta be a high-end home, you can't put a smaller home in there.
Mhm.
My concern is putting 14-foot wide trailers in. What it's mostly for the building restriction. It's a really restricted.
And that's a yes.
Can't have a manufactured home like that. That would be modular on wood.
gentlemen, it is up to you. Yeah, make a motion.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I can, Jennifer, can you hook me back up to the presentation? And I can make just a little bit of, I've got the our use chart pulled up showing what can and can't be allowed within
Sure. Oh, perfect. You have it there. Thank
in
you.
the district. So what's highlighted right now is a single family manufactured home or mobile home. So on rural residential, you can have a manufactured or a mobile home. If you
Mhm,
go over to R2SF, you cannot
mhm.
have a manufactured or mobile home. Something else, just putting it out there for everybody's education benefits is with state statute, in order for someone to go in and put a mobile home court or anything like that, it's got to go through the subdivision process.
Yes.
You can't just start a mobile home court just to start one because you have acreage.
Yeah.
That's something that the state has taken care of with their regulations and would have to go through the full-blown subdivision
Process.
portion
yes.
with that. If, let's say Mandy went through with her family exemption and split it into the 3 parcels that she was talking about, yes, each one of those parcels could have a manufactured or mobile home on it. I don't disagree with that. So yes, there is a difference in what would be allowed to be built out there. Our 2SF is definitely more restrictive with what can be built out there. As far as the size of structures that would be able to be built out there, as Mr. Richards was talking about earlier, you can always request to go through a variance process to request a larger accessory structure.
Mhm.
It's similar to what we're doing. You're just looking at different regulations on that. The path that Mandy has chosen is the zone map amendment process, but just a little bit more clarity to just kind of what's been discussed here today as well.
Thank you. Does that help at all?
Oh, yeah,
Yep.
I'm just want to stay consistent with what we've been doing. And that's on the overlay. I mean, I don't want to drop it to 2 acre, if we don't have an overlay come in a month, she decide, changes her mind and just can, change, without coming back and different. So just keep the steps in there to happen again. And I mean, the family exemption is gonna override our overlays anyway.
Mhm.
So that's, I don't even see a need to change the 35 acre overlay if we're without a set plan,
I don't
That's my
disagree
feeling.
with that. Again, when it comes to minimum lot size and things like that, rural residential is 1 acre. But because this property is located within the growth management area, the minimum lot acre will actually be 2.
Yes.
Because
And septic and sewer, and I don't
because
think,
it's for
there's no
septic.
sewer out there yet, so.
no sewer, just water, so septic. That would drive a minimum lot size of 2. So
2.
that's as small as somebody could go
Right,
right now with the way that our regulations are currently. If, let's say you wanted to go with, I don't know. And I'll be honest, I kind of have a hard time with lot size overlays. In my opinion, they're there as another check for,
Mhm.
it's attached to a zoning, but it's also it's separate zoning on there. It's in some areas, it's not in others.
and that's me, I just want to stay consistent, because we did that.
Mhm.
Just north of, or just in Reliance, change that to put lot or restrictions in there. Or change the map size, lot size. And I don't want to see us one thing here, a different thing here, a different thing. I want us to be consistent with what we do. I do see a need for exceptions and a need for people to be able to do whatever they want with their land. But whatever we do needs to be consistent.
I agree.
I don't disagree. I definitely see where you're going with that.
And I think with the rural residential being limited to 2 acres, the property to the east appears to be have an overlay of 2 acres as well.
Okay. And I was seeing that removing an overlay and leaving it blank, I was like, I think there's overlays all over the place out there. As it sits now, but You know, if we're removing them, let's remove them. If we're gonna have them, let's have them within some, just to at least bring somebody back to say this is what we're doing, you know?
Oh, and
I want
I don't
change.
disagree with you. I think consistency is huge because I think we have, if it be north of Rock Springs, Reliance, the Red Desert, not a lot of consistency.
They're gonna
and-
be fixing it for the next 20 years after we're gone,
Yeah.
for the 20 years before us, so it's not far out, I don't think, but I'm just trying to wrap in my head what I want to see. I think we should just leave the 35 acre overlay till she does her family exemption, which is gonna wipe our overlay anyway,
Yes.
you know, so we're not changing a whole lot, you know, that's just my opinion.
This has definitely been good conversation.
You
I
know?
appreciate that. That's something I don't always get sometimes when I'm looking at and reviewing this stuff. And I think great points have been brought up today. And I do see that leaving it there, since the statute kind of overrides it anyway, it doesn't, no harm, no foul with us
There's no
keeping it
harm, no
there. So I
foul
think
in
that
it.
would be a
I
good
agree.
motion.
And if she
to
wants
make.
to change a year from now or 6 months, a year from now and develop the property, come in and say, we want to
Yeah.
do this, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, would you like to make a motion on?
let's make a motion. We'll see if I can word this one right. To, from R2SF to rural residential, leaving the current, 35 acre overlay in place. If it
Madam-
wants to change that, then come in and change that separately.
Well, at this point, it doesn't have the 35.
It does have the 35.
It does currently.
This
Right now, the
the
property
35.
is zoned single family residential
With the
to
35.
with a 35 acres.
Okay.
So if what you're proposing would be
Without-
rural residential,
And if she
keeping the
wants to change
35
it, come in
acres.
and change it, you know, and her family exemption is gonna overwrite our thing anyway, so.
So your motion is to go ahead and change it from R2SF to RR without the overlay.
Yeah, or with the.
With the overlay.
With the-
Okay.
Leave everything as is, basically, but change R2SF to RR.
I'll second that.
Any final further discussion? John, any input at all, or we're good?
So I guess the only input is that I think I've heard you articulate both general and specific reasons. And so I think it's good to also always include the specific reasons in addition to the consistency general. But I think I'm hearing you say some specific reasons with some of the surrounding
Areas.
properties. So including those specific reasons along with the general ones is always valuable.
Okay, thank you. All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. So it will go to the county commissioners, on the 17th. Thank you, everybody. That was good discussion. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We're gonna move into public hearing number 3, Terry in a, how to, Feisler, okay, thank you. A variance, section 5.g Sweetwater County zoning resolution.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. As with most of my public hearings, they are a two-part.
Yep,
Sure.
so here we go. Yep, 1 and 2.
The next part to this is the final plat for the double F subdivision. The hearing that we've got, excuse me, before you today is a variance request for the access road that goes through the Jackman Ranch subdivision and which would feed into the double F subdivision. Property owners that the access road currently sits on is Susan Nichols and Terry and Valley Feisler. Mr. Feisler is the applicant himself, and the legal descriptions for those properties in which the access road sits on currently is Lot 2 of the Jackman Ranch subdivision and proposed Lot 1 of the double F subdivision. where Mr. Feasler lives right now. If you look at your cutouts, of the Jackman Ranch subdivision, his property is actually not included in it. Sometimes history is really hard to go back when you don't have anybody that's been around there. So that is what that is at this point in time. And we're just doing the best that we have and moving forward with that, trying to clean things up as best as we can. The current zoning of this property is rural residential with a lot size overlay of 3 acres. The property also resides within the growth management area. Fire district number 1 is the responder. There is private access. The private access road is Jackman Access. This is being cleaned up, further cleaned up in the double F as it was conditions and recommendations from staff as we were going through that. Rocky Mountain Power does have electrical out there, and it also resides within the 10-mile water and sewer district. And all properties have septic permits. When Mr. Feasler originally came into our offices and met with both myself and Mr. Legursky on this, he was basically wanting to do a boundary line adjustment, take the south property line and align it with where the private road of Jackman Access currently is. Ironically enough, and going back and forth, making sure we weren't overthinking it or requiring something that wasn't needing to be there, because his property is outside the subdivision, he couldn't go through the simple administrative replat process, which is something that just staff handles, because it would be a boundary line adjustment with a property that resides within a subdivision, which is lot 3 of Jackman Ranch subdivision. We needed to have him go through the minor subdivision. Also, while going through all of this discussion and process, it was looked further into by myself and Mr. Legursky, going back and trying to look at research, look at what was noted on the plat and just confusion that it was causing. As you guys can see on the plat, there is that access road. It is pretty generically defined. And goes at basically an angle point to the center part of all those properties and comes across. It's 50-foot wide. Where this easement plots out actually does not line up with where the actual Jackman Access Road currently is. The road more or less weaves in and out of some accessory structures that Susan Nichols owns on her property and goes out. It goes in and out of this easement. The other thing, when you actually pull the book and page on this easement, is the way the easement was described was for the use of, back in the day, Kurt Jackman is who originally owned this property just before he sold it to Mr. Feasler. So that easement was only for the purposes of that property. Now, where it gets a little bit confusing and where staff was looking at it going, well, this is what it says on the plat. This is what the easement says. And talking with a couple different title companies in the area, and they saw the confusion as well was, well, does this road actually provide access for the other 3 lots within the subdivision? And because we got so many different answers from everybody, it was something that we wanted to address, and Mr. Feasler was on board to address at this stage in time. So that's why we're here for the variance today, is one, to request a variance, because right now with the way that our regulations currently state is a private access road within the growth management area, it needs to be 60 feet. We're requesting it to go down to 50 feet. 50 feet basically matches what was dedicated in the past, and also would allow Susan Nichols to keep her structures that the road actually weaves in and out of. So again, like most of the subdivisions that have been coming up lately, there's always something weird that we're looking at and trying to fix, and always trying to better the situation as we move forward. So just a quick check-in, does that explanation make sense of why we're looking at the access, including looking and fixing the property lines for the double F subdivision? Does that make sense to everybody?
It does. I just not the confusion, but the confusion of, the subdivision being out there all these years ago. I'm like, who regulates that this never happened, that there was no legal access to all these lots? I'm like, that is crazy to me. So yeah, cleaning it up would be great. Yeah, that helps. Thank you.
I just want to check before I get more into the actual variance. That kind of is just the background to why we're here for both public hearings today. See if I can go back to, there we go. Okay, a little bit more with the application summary. Mr. Fiesler has also been working with his property owners that are in the Jackman Ranch subdivision, making them aware of this and also getting them on board to sign a new, basically access easements agreement that Susan Nichols will be granting to her neighbors within the subdivision as it stands today, the Jackman Ranch and the proposed Double F subdivision, which is our next hearing. As you can see, did the liberty of just kind of changing where the boundary line will be for the Double F subdivision so people can visually see it better. And this black line that comes through here, that's actually just great, shows where the road's at. So if you look at that other subdivision picture, for whatever reason, that is what it is. We're just trying to get things cleaned up and provide a more accurate legal description to what's there, also while clarifying who will maintain the property. And the landowners have also chosen to put access to utilities in the road, which is a good thing for future. Let's say gas makes its way all the way out there, or sewer for one day. They don't have to go through and get easements at that point in time. It could get put into this private road. So trying to clean things up, clarify what was been done in the past, and also help things in the future. This is the document that was referenced on the by book and page on the plat that created the kind of confusion. You guys have had a chance to look at that within the packet. It basically is 2 strips of land that describes for the benefit of Mr. Fiesler's property as it stands today, since it passed with heirs and assigns from Kurt Jackman onto him when he sold the property. Again, just more zoomed in detail of where the road's actually at, as you can see it weaving in and out. And then where that boundary line adjustment will basically happen through the minor subdivision process. This red line is going to come down and be on the south side of the road, where the private access road will only reside on Mr. Fiesler's property, and he will have to grant an access easement to Mr. Arthur Jones, who owns this property right now. Here's the proposed Double F subdivision that shows the varying access easements that will be granted and subsequently recorded right after. It's going to be one of those we're going to have to make sure we've got all our documents in order when we go and get these recorded. We'll have the final plat recorded, all the easements, and then Mr. Fiesler also wanted to vacate the existing easements just so that there was no confusion in the future, saying we're relinquishing it, in favor of these other easements that are being granted. Mr. Jim Zimmerman properly posted public notice out there, and we'll kind of get back into just the specifics of the variance application, which there's three criteria for that. And the variances that are being requested all have to do with the going from a 60-foot private roadway easement to a 50-foot private roadway easement. Basically, the property is not subject of a subdivision permit. It is. We need a variance for that to be allowed. Also, because it's within the growth management area, that is another request. You know, how we've talked about in the past, especially with Chenoweth. Last month, we've got little snippets all over the place. We're trying to cover our basis and make sure we're requesting essentially the same variance, just in hitting all the different section of code that it applies to. And then also within the growth management plan, section 6.2.6. 6.5, excuse me, also clarifying private roadways there as well. Now jumping into the actual 3 criteria for the variance, there are special circumstances or conditions fully described in the commissioners and board's findings, which are peculiar to the land or building for which the variance is sought and do not generally apply to land or buildings within the neighborhood and have not resulted from the act of the applicant subsequent to the adoption of the zoning resolution. As I've stated before, the easement that was in place to get to Mr. Fiesler's property has always been a 50-foot easement. It's shown as a 50-foot easement on the plat, but there has been confusion with multiple title companies within the area, confusion with staff on just interpreting what's there. And we're just wanting to try and get everything cleaned up in order for him to do his proposed double F subdivision. Another thing that's peculiar kind of about this situation is when you start looking back just in history of things, not all the time do all of our private roads actually clarify who is maintaining it, who actually benefits from the property, and how that transfers forward. That is something that we're proposing to get cleaned up with all the access easements that will be required with the double F subdivision. Criteria number 2, for reasons fully set forth in the commissioners and board's findings, the circumstances or conditions are such that strict application of the provisions of the Sweetwater County zoning resolution would deprive the applicant of reasonable use of their land or building. The granting of the adjustment is necessary or the reasonable use thereof, and the adjustment is the minimal adjustment that will accomplish this purpose. The variance is being requested from 60 feet to 50 feet. 50 feet is matching what's historically been out there and also just trying to clarify what's historically been there, all in the physical location of the road, maintenance, and how who the road actually benefits moving forward. The easement for the Fiesler's property has been there since November 3rd of 1986. And the last criteria is the granting of this variance is in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning resolution and will not be injurious to the neighborhood or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. Staff does not find that the variance request would be injurious. If anything, it's helping the neighborhood as a whole, trying to clarify and make things more direct and purely just clarifying things for future generations to come. I know most of the people you talk to around here is like, I'm a short timer. It's not going to happen within my lifetime. I'm one of those people that's still going to be here and I don't want to deal with stuff twice. If we can get it handled with one thing and make things better each step that we move forward, I think that's what our job here is as staff and as a commission as well. We did put this out for public and agency comment. Again, we received 4 comments back, all really being no comment. Lumen did put an image of what they had as far as utilities going to the end of the public portion, the county road portion of Jackman Access Road. Other than that, all west, Phillips 66, Lumen, and City of Rock Springs had no comments or no issues with the proposed variance. And staff recommends the approval of the variance for the private access road to be 50 feet wide with the following conditions. Condition number 1 being that the resolution for the double F subdivision is also approved by the Board of County Commissioners. And criteria number 2, that all appropriate signatures and documents are appropriately recorded within 180 days of the Board of County Commissioner approval. And this is more just trying to make sure we're tying all of our applications together, that you can't move forward one without the other. Basically, the double F subdivision, the 3 access easements, one which directly benefits lot 1 of Jackman Ranch subdivision, an access easement that benefits both lots 1 and 2 of the double F subdivision, and then an access easement benefiting just lot 2 of the double F subdivision. Excuse me. Also relinquishment of the existing 50-foot access easement and recording of the two quitclaim deeds to clarify exactly who owns what at the end of the day. I'm trying to make sure we know whose interest is what, because when you have multiple owners of interest on a plat, they're both conveying it simultaneously together, and there's following up with these deeds helps to clarify and make sure there's no cloud on title in the future. I know that was a lot. Please ask questions. And we do have the applicant, Mr. Fiesler is in attendance with us today as well.
Thank you, Megan. Mr. Fiesler, is there anything you would like to come up and add to the presentation? I know.
Just like you said, trying to clear up some things. It's been there a long time. I've lived out there since 1986. We bought from Kurt and Jeanette Jackman. And I did talk to Dr. Jackman back in the day about why he did the easement like he did, instead of going down the existing road, and he said the existing.
We might have you,
Oh,
can you guys not hear in
excuse
the
me.
back?
Yeah,
Oh,
sorry.
sorry, thank you. I didn't know. if
He
you could-
said, talked about why he did the easement as he did versus going down the existing road, and he said it was more expensive to survey the existing road, so their choice was point A to point B, basically. And there's no road there. It goes through Susan's barn, another shed, old building, one of the original buildings at the ranch,
Oh.
bunch of trees and things like that. So the historical access has always been down the road. And 10 Mile put the water line in out there. Nichols gave them an easement for the water line down the existing road, and so Susan's on board and the other neighbors to get this cleaned up and trying to make things a little more simple. So
Which we appreciate, yes.
any questions?
Does anybody have
for me?
questions for Mr. Fiesler
No, I don't.
this time?
I don't have any questions, but I am glad that this is getting cleaned up because
Yes.
it is a mess.
Yes, it is. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, we'll go ahead and open it up to public comment. If there's anybody in favor, and I know you would like to speak, so you could, if you want to in general or whatnot, we'll open it up for anybody in favor of the variance. Anybody against? Or just in general would like to say something? Perfect, come on up, and if you'll state your name for the record for us, and I know you've waited a little bit this morning. We appreciate your patience.
No problem. My name is Mike Tacky. I live at 25 Jackman Access Road, which is just to the west of what's being discussed here.
Okay.
I've always been a little interested in that roadway. The county road ends right there where I believe there's a 40-acre thing there. Must have been the original Jackman Ranch. So anyhow, this isn't changing that the county road ends right there, right?
It does. Does it?
It's not changing
Changing
where,
anything.
where the county road
Yeah.
ends. The county road will.
County
still-
ain't gonna go down past where it ends right there, where Jackman Ranch begins, where the original ranch begins.
Correct.
Correct, yeah.
So that's fine when they're snowed in down there. Speaking of Kurt Jackman, I know him well. But anyhow, he used to like to brag about, gee, we get snowed in. A lot of people don't know what snowed in means, but I do, and he did. So, my neighbor across the street there, Larry, he's the one that usually removes the snow around there. County ain't big on coming down. I don't think they much care about us to the east of the highway there. Doesn't matter. We're Wyomingites and we're whatever, we're self-sufficient. We,
Yeah, with it being a private road, yep, exactly.
yeah.
That's it.
Well, anyhow,
Changes those.
this double F subdivision thing, you planning on, you got about 10 acres over there, right? So what are you planning on splitting that up into small lots or something? Well, then I got no objection whatsoever to this here thing. Let's get that straightened out.
I think we're gonna try to get that done today, yes.
Okie dokie.
Yeah, no, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the audience? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public portion, open it up for the board for any final questions. The one question I have, or maybe two, but one for sure, as far as the easements, they are ongoing. They're not going to be site specific like the other one was, just for one simple lot. These will be ongoing easements that are going to be out there. We're very clear of this, correct? Or,
Yep.
Okay.
The way the easements are written, when I first read them, it's the old English of what I've called, how it's described is, let's say for lot one,
Mhm.
Jennifer, if you could show my screen again, please. So lot one Jackman Ranch is up here. The
Okay.
first easement that is gonna be done is gonna be, it's gonna have a meets and bounds or a center line, description
Okay.
saying it's 50 feet wide and it's gonna be granted from lot two to lot one for the benefit of those properties. This runs with the land. It's not
Okay.
even gonna run with the
Ownership.
property
Okay.
ownership. It's gonna be appurtenant and sticking with the land.
Okay.
That will also help. There is language in there that does assign heirs and assigns, we've got a bunch of different opinions when a lot of people look at this information. As far as staff's concerned and looking into things there, we are making sure that nobody will have to deal with this. Again, just trying to clarify everything. And also in there, it's going to discuss maintenance.
As far as who's maintaining the private road.
Who's maintaining the private road. And also again, is going to clarify that utilities can go in there if the grantee would like that to happen at such time.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify or verify, I guess, that we don't have these issues again. Okay. And then we are going to vacate the current easement so that, okay. Okay, those were the two questions I had. Does anybody else have any? Does it help? Thank you, because this did help, because looking through our packet, I'm like, oh my word, this is just bad. And I'm like, I don't get all of this and how we got here, but it is what it is and it does need cleaned up.
Sometimes words don't do things
No,
justice.
I
when you
agree.
Start
No,
looking
no.
at stuff and
I looked through it and I was just like, no, and looked through it again. I'm like, no, still don't get it. So thank you. All right, do we have a motion for the variance for Mr. Fiesler?
I'll make a motion that we do the variance for the private access road to 50-foot wide with staff recommendations.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Any final comments or discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, motion carries. Okay, we'll go into part two with public hearing number 4 for Mr. Fiesler on the final plat for the Double F subdivision.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Definitely don't want to beat a dead horse here. This is
No.
the actual subdivision, Double F. The property is owned by Terry and Valerie Fiesler and Arthur Jones. Mr. Fiesler himself is the applicant. And everything else pretty much is the exact same from the previous public hearing. And we will just jump straight into comments that we received back. All West, their comment was recommend arranging for a public utility easement from the west property edge of Jackman subdivision to this new subdivision so that all lots can be accessed. Modifying the private ingress egress easement would do so. Currently, within the proposed public utility easement from the center point of the Jackman and Double F subdivision, no utilities except water can be accessed as it is landlocked. For this plat, lot 1 can get water and power from an existing easement, but no other utility, or lot 2 can get any other utility to it except water. Lumen had no conflict or comment, as well as Phillips 66 and City of Rock Springs. Planner did not have any issues with what was being proposed on there. There was a couple back and forth revisions, just with the subdivision itself. it's a very small area for a lot of things to be clarified in. So all existing easements that affect both proposed lot 1 and lot 2 are shown on the property. Anything that's existing is being there. And both the property owners decided to go through with a public utility easement being from across lot 1 to lot 2, kind of helping clean up what All West is talking about. Plus, with us following up through with the access easements, utilities will be taken care of in that part. So all these little documents that will be recorded subsequently of the plat, everything's all working together to make sure that hopefully nobody has to deal with this again if we do things correct, which we have identified, hopefully. Staff, Public Works Director Andy Hooton had several comments. I'll let you guys read through those. All of these comments have been addressed. It's been great working with Mr. Fiesler and Kent Felderman over at JFC. We were able to get comments out and have everything addressed within, I would say, a week, probably going back and forth. So it's been really nice to have comments put out there and not have a lag time for that. So all of Mr. Hooton's comments have been addressed, and all the comments that I have in my packet as well have been addressed.
Okay.
So I don't want to beat a dead horse with any of that stuff. A lot of it was just kind of cleaning up things and making sure we can read things and everything's called the same between all the documents that are being recorded was really the biggest thing. Staff does recommend approval of this double F subdivision with the following conditions. Again, we're just tying everything together. Criteria number 1, or condition number 1, excuse me, being that resolution for the variance of private access road to be 50-foot wide is also approved by the county commissioners, and that all appropriate signatures are acquired on the documents and they're recorded within 180 days. Basically the exact same documentation that was listed on the last public hearing, just because there are so many little details on this. We want to make sure everything gets tied together. And when Mr. Fiesler goes out and starts getting all the signatures on this, he's got a little job to do himself with that. So we just want to make sure everything's all tied together. That's all I have for this one, Madam Chair.
Perfect. Mr. Fiesler, is there anything you'd like to add to this one? Nope. Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and open it up to for public comment. If anybody in the audience is for the double F subdivision final plat. If there's anybody against or would like to say something in general. Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public comment portion. Open it back up to the board for any final questions, comments.
I did just have one comment in here. There was comments from All West about utilities, and so there is no utility easements in here except for water and power, which would be fine, I guess, but I guess this would be your chance to add those utility easements if you were to want them before.
Yeah, in the easement documents that the attorneys drafted is for ingress, egress, and utilities, any utilities. So that's on the easement from Nichols to lot 1 and to the proposed lots on the double F. And then from, like she mentioned, there's a public utility easement 40-foot wide from lot 1 of double F to lot 2 to cover the existing water and electrical that's already there. And so that 40-foot wide public utility easement covers that. But the actual easement documents just specify utilities as well as ingress and egress. So.
Okay.
Perfect, good. Thank you, Rob. Kelly, anything?
No, I'm good.
Thank you very much for going through this process. We know it is not easy. This is a lot. It's a lot for us to take in. So thank you. And Megan, Eric, Jean, everybody, thank you for working on this. I know it's a lot of work. But definitely will help clarify, which in the long run will will help everybody down the road. So thank you. We do appreciate everybody's work on this. We have a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the double F subdivision final plat following staff recommendations.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Any final discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. So we'll go in front of the county commissioners on the seventeenth, next Tuesday, and whatnot. So we'll need you there for that. also.
Hey, Madam Chair,
Yes,
can we take a 5-minute recess?
yes, we can. Yeah,
Before
we have
jump
been here
into
for a
the
little
next
bit.
one?
Yeah, so let's go ahead. Let's take a 5-minute recess and we'll be back here at 20 after. How's that? Thank you. I could get up to myself. I'm like. Hate these chairs. No, that's perfect. Oh, yeah. It's pretty-
And I'd like to look at it, I'm not sure. I don't want to be right, but you're
It is 11:20 a.m. and we are to public hearing number 5, which is Land Use Department for clarification of language amendment, the planning and zoning bylaws.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this will be very straightforward. So we held a notice of intent hearing on September 25th. Sorry, not November 25th. Let me go back, August 9th, excuse me. So we held a meeting on August 9th, 2023 for a notice of intent in accordance with the Administrative Procedures Act with Wyoming. And that is initiated a 45-day comment period. We have not received any comments. And so we are holding to certify the bylaws today. So what we're asking today is to certify the planning and zoning authorization. This will not go to the Board of County Commissioners. This will actually be approved today once the county clerk signs said documents. So Madam Chair, what I'm asking for today is a motion to certify planning and zoning authorization and answer any questions. Good thing on the bylaws, thank you so much for all the hard work that Planning and Zoning Commission put into that. We went from 20+ pages down to 6. So we definitely simplified the process. Now, moving forward, you're not going to have to say
Exactly.
on the comment section in favor. It's just you open it up for public comments.
I asked Megan last month, I'm like, when do we get to do this? She's like, I think next month or month after. I'm like, okay.
Yes, yes, yes. And then it'll be a majority vote.
Mhm,
So now let's say today you had a 2-to-1 vote.
mhm.
That would actually pass and it wouldn't be a negative recommendation or no recommendation going to the Board of County Commissioners. So we're acting exactly how we do on voting with the Board of County Commissioners. So we're in sync with that. So feel really good about it. And we went from what,
There was a lot of pages.
1980s or 90s to 2023 planning and zoning bylaws. So
Sure.
appreciate it.
I
That's
can't
all I have.
believe nobody commented. What? out
No,
there?
I
What?
know.
I'm like, why, who doesn't want to read more bylaws? right, in their
That's
life?
right. That's right. So that's all I have, Madam Chair. We will have to, of course, do the same thing with public comment right now because these aren't passed. So,
Last,
yep.
yes.
So that's all I have, Madam Chair.
Oh, amen. All right. Any questions before we open
Oh,
it up? Yeah.
There is one more thing. So, because there is a condition in the planning and zoning authorization that does allow administrative changes. So if we do find some grammatical
Yeah.
things, the table of contents, the page, it's really awkward, the page numbering, and they put it in alphabetical order instead of numerical order, which is interesting. So that will be included also in the
Okay.
planning and zoning authorization. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Awesome. We'll go ahead and open it up for our final public comment. If there's anybody in the audience in favor of our certification, if there's anybody against or in general that would like to speak. Hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public comment portion, open it back up to the board. Any comments? Thank you, guys. I know in the midst of having 5 hearings every single month, the last thing we need is bylaw changes and updates, but it is very much appreciated. I know it's a lot of time and work, but thank you because it was definitely needed. So thank you for your time. Okay, do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we certify the language amendment for the planning and zoning bylaws.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So if we could, on that motion to authorize 2023-10 PZ01, state that in the motion.
Absolutely.
So authorize 23 what?
So if you go back, so it certify, here, I'll give it to you.
Yeah, because it has the,
Okay. All right. I'll make a motion to certify P and Z authorization 2023-10 PZ-01 regarding the language amendment to the Sweetwater County Planning and Zoning Commission bylaws.
thank you.
I'll second that.
Any final discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Awesome. That is great. I am excited for that for the next meeting. Do we have any other business? Old business?
Madam Chair, just new business as far as on last Thursday, there were, as Sweetwater Economic Development Coalition, Kayla McDonald organized a panel, industrial panel, and on there had all the new projects, had Project West, had the Natrium facility, had Pacific Soda. They were all here to present their projects and just talk about them and answer questions from the public. I can send you the YouTube link so that you can see it. It was very informative. You know, we did do a zone map amendment for the, I believe it was Project West. Pacific Soda is still going through the NEPA process, so that is the reason why how you have not seen a zone map amendment for that yet. When they do 4 alternatives, it can alter the location of the site of the actual above ground facilities, and you don't want to lock that in if you don't
No.
know exactly where it's going to go. So once we get through the draft EIS on that, then we might see something lock in as far as a zone map amendment goes, just for your information, but really gave a lot of good information on workforce, housing needs, things like that. And speaking of, I'm going to work with Ms. Toomer to hopefully we can get those language amendments moving forward, because we did get a very large lot subdivision in with duplex proposed units. So we need to move fast and get that on the agenda for December. So I have, Madam Chair.
Awesome. Thank you. Anything else? Anybody? All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead and adjourn. It is 11:27 a.m. Thank you guys so much.